It's a mystery that's never been solved. Where is Cookie Jacobson? What happened to the Tempe mom? It's been over 25 years since her disappearance and still no answers. This is Arizona Crime Uncovered. I'm Ashley Holden.
It is as if she just totally vanished off the face of the earth.
She just disappeared. We can't find her.
I still don't believe it.
Investigators also spent time defending their actions yesterday, arresting the Jacobson kids and then releasing them.
We've searched above and beyond the area that we were told that she would be in.
I just can't believe they would do something like that to that good woman.
Somebody out there knows what happened.
You don't want to talk to us about your mom? Back in 1998, people living here in the valley watched an expansive search that included a local landfill. The community shocked as Cookie's 2 kids were arrested, only to be let go. We sat down with Cookie's brother and the reporter who spent decades tracking this case. Our team asking Tempe police about the investigation, even trying to track down Cookie's kids.
It's not easy. You would think after 26 years it would be.
But you loved her sister.
Yeah, she was something else.
It seems like she was someone that would just never vanish out of thin air.
No, she had too much going on. She was deep into her, the work that she was doing, hopefully leading to a job with Disney.
In 1998, Cookie Jacobson was a Tempe mom of 2, previously a home health care nurse, studying for a potential new career. At the time, living with her husband Bill and her teenage kids, Aaron and Laura. Cookie had just turned 49.
If somebody needed something, she was there. Unfortunately, at home, at her home life, she was the authoritarian.
Gary says that's an important detail to this story. Decades later, he lives in the Midwest, but when his sister disappeared, he was just hours away in Palm Springs. Walk me through the day that your sister went missing. Can you tell me what you remember from that day?
That day, I didn't hear anything until late in the evening. It was probably 9 or 9:30 or 10 before I got a call telling me that she was missing. And nobody, supposedly had any idea where she was.
In the days following, ABC 15 covering the search for Cookie. Her husband Bill saying he kissed his wife goodbye and left for work around 7 in the morning on September 21st, 1998.
The kids and her all went back to sleep. They ended up sleeping in late, and they got out here about 9:30 and told her they were going to school, and she said she got after them for being late off to school.
Police say Jacobson simply vanished Monday morning. She was working at home on her computer and hasn't been seen since. Investigators believe she may have been forced from her home because Jacobson, police believe, is still wearing pajamas. Her keys and purse were left behind.
We've covered all these houses so far.
The sooner we get it out, maybe somebody will remember seeing something, anything.
Neighbors and even Cookie's daughter handing out thousands of flyers within 200 square miles.
Kyrene east to Price, Buckeye north to McDowell.
Covering Cookie's case for decades, former ABC 15 reporter Christina Estes.
Because this was pre-social media, and that's why it was such a huge story. It was not just, Cookie's family in the immediate area. It was other people across the valley who had heard about Cookie Jacobson and was watching this to see where she went, what had happened. What were police saying?
Cookie's brother at the time left confused and with questions of his own. What was going through your mind?
First of all, things weren't adding up.
Less than 2 weeks after the Tempe mom's disappearance, a stunning twist in the case. 16-year-old Aaron arrested for alleged second-degree murder, and 13-year-old Laura for helping.
These are the police mugshots of the 2 teens suspected by police in their missing mother's apparent murder.
Don't think that she did it because she didn't seem like the person, and her and her mom were nice to each other.
A community in shock, but some that knew Aaron sharing a different story.
Other classmates say they were surprised by Aaron Jacobson's apparent aloofness about his mother's disappearance.
He goes, "Oh, I don't really care. We didn't really like her anyways."
Police documents reveal disturbing conversations with Aaron Jacobson's classmates. One boy says Aaron and his mother had a bad relationship. Another student tells Detective Reed that he wanted to kill his mother. and his sister wanted to do something to her too.
But with Cookie's body still missing, the kids were quickly released due to lack of evidence.
It was shocking, yeah. I remember, the whole newsroom was like, what? It was surprising, especially because people immediately remembered that Cookie's daughter was out there handing out flyers. It was the same day they were released, so it was sort of this whiplash a little bit. What? They were arrested? What? They're released? What's going on?
There are suspects in this case. That has not changed at all.
And there's no other suspect?
There's no other suspects at this time.
ABC 15 reporting Cookie's husband passed a lie detector test. Laura's results inconclusive, but Aaron failed.
Aaron Jacobson told Reed that he found his mother in bed, dead. Thinking he'd be blamed, Aaron told police he and Laura wrapped their mother's body in a sheet, dumped her in a recycling bin, wheeled her to a larger trash can, and left her in the alley behind their house.
What were your thoughts when you heard that?
First of all, I found it hard to believe that her daughter was involved in it in any way, shape, or form, because even at the age of 12, she always had Mom's skirt in her hand. She was right next to her all the time.
But based on his conversations with his sister, Gary has much different thoughts on his nephew.
Came as a surprise, but it wasn't an unbelievable surprise.
Police records say Laura denied any involvement with her mom's disappearance. With the kids released, the search was on to find Cookie. Evidence moving the focus of the search to a landfill. People across the country hoping Cookie Jacobson would be found.
We had hope, and the people working at the search were all full of hope.
A community left reeling after the arrest of Cookie Jacobson's 2 kids, not even 2 weeks after the Tempe mom's disappearance.
Enough probable cause was obtained at that point to make the arrest.
There's almost a presumption that they're guilty, and I just don't think we know that yet.
Without a body, the kids were released. Police would later confirm bloodstains found in a trash container were a match for Cookie. The search moving to the Butterfield landfill in Mobile, Arizona. There, every step of the way, Cookie's brother.
My sister loved the desert, but this would not be the place where she'd want as her final resting place.
The first emotion I can recall having is when I arrived there was frustration, because Bill, her husband, was not there, and that surprised me. And I realized at that point that our relationship was probably pretty much over. I figured out that he was just in protective mode for his children.
Tempe police spent months at that landfill, sifting through 8,000 tons of waste, an effort that cost over $300,000.
There is some feeling that if we could just go 5 more feet, The problem is that we've searched above and beyond the area that we were told that she would be in, and you could dig up the whole landfill.
Do you remember the day they stopped searching, or did they come to you and say, hey, we've done all we can with this search?
I was notified a couple of days in advance that they had run to the end of their rope.
Eventually the search was called off. With no body came no answers. Did you think that, the children's case was going to move forward? What did you think was going to happen after that?
I really didn't have any expectations. I had never been involved in anything like this, and at the time I was one of the busiest real estate agents in Palm Springs, and so my life was 10 and 12-hour days at that point at work. And I'll never forget what one of my coworkers told me when I got back from the visit at the dump. They said, Gary, your life will never be the same. And I kind of shined it off, but sadly, they were absolutely right.
A year later, ABC 15 sat down with police.
Do you still have suspects in this case? And if you do, who are they? The suspects in this case are Cookie's children.
So what do Aaron and Laura Jacobson have to say about all this? Well, they're not talking, but they still have an attorney. He's inside this building and he won't go on camera. But attorney Craig Marins did tell News 15 that a crime was never committed. With that in mind, we asked if the family plans on suing Tempe police for false arrest. Marins says there are no plans for such a lawsuit.
Over 20 years later, the kids never officially charged and no other arrests made in the case. Former ABC 15 reporter Christina Estes also spoke with multiple investigators over the years.
All the information that we've gathered over the years points directly at her two children. We believe that someone out there, again, may have heard a conversation by one of the children.
One detective, after retiring, even sharing his own theory.
I think something happened and they made a mistake. And things got out of hand, that's what I think. I think she still loves those children.
I replayed one of Christina's stories for her before our interview.
Reed says there's no sign that Cookie feared her children. In fact, he thinks Cookie would forgive them.
Watching that, does it bring a lot of memories back of sitting, talking to Gary, but also talking about the case?
Gary's, that's what's making me cry. I think I was going to cry. Yeah, I just feel for Gary.
Yeah.
I've stayed in touch with him every year. We talk.
Christina says after one of her stories aired, there was a sliver of hope.
We actually received a tip, and that really sort of sparked a little, not excitement, but maybe some positive vibes, I guess, from the detectives working the case, and it unfortunately did not pan out. But until somebody says something, it's been very frustrating.
Yeah. Can you describe that day, getting that tip, and what was said?
I won't, because I don't know if that would ever jeopardize the case. Yeah. And so I don't want to share the details of that. All I can say is we got a phone call, I got a phone call, and I talked to my news director, and we called Tempe PD, and they have that information.
All these years later, when she thinks about the case,
the big question that always comes to my mind is, will Gary get answers?
Have you ever heard from the kids, from Cookie's kids, ever again?
No, not a word. And I'm sure that's an attorney's order to them.
This September will mark 27 years since the last time Gary spoke with his sister Cookie. This was one of the last photos he received. Do you remember your last conversation with your sister?
Yes, I do quite clearly, and I've regretted it ever since. And the last conversation was about 3 days before her birthday, which would put us about a week before her death. And I had called her. I was in Albuquerque, I think, and was getting ready to drive back to Palm Springs, and I had called, and we talked about me maybe stopping in Tempe on the way back, and I didn't. That bothers me.
This year, we reached out to Tempe police about Cookie's case, asking for an interview, but they declined, instead sending us a lengthy statement. Police say right now Cookie's case is considered inactive, but not closed. Right now, we're told there is not a detective actively assigned to the case. Police say there is no predetermined schedule for reviewing cold cases. Instead, they are reassessed based on the emergence of new leads. How hard is it to have a no-body homicide?
Homicide in general is difficult, and then you put another layer on it with the no body, meaning that you really have no idea how the victim was killed because you can't see the wounds or anything like that. The medical examiner is not opined on how the particular person died, so it is difficult. And as the years go by, it just becomes even more difficult.
Troy Hillman is a former Phoenix cold case homicide detective who has solved cases like the well-known Canal Killer murders. We asked him to take a look at Tempe's statement and share his outside perspective.
They went out of their way to say, hey, it's not closed, it's just inactive, it will be open should information surface. And I used that during my tenure in cold case to tell families that were grieving, hey, we're not going to give up, we're not going to get rid of the evidence, but we have to move on. We have to prioritize other cases that could be a little bit more solvable.
Yeah.
And that's hard to hear.
But what would you tell, Gary and his family as, they've told me they're losing hope?
Well, I would go back to those two examples I used of karma and never giving up, and the fact that somebody may turn themselves in, but just try to keep the hope up, and don't be afraid to occasionally reach out and professionally ask a law enforcement agency, hey, what's going on? Can I get any information? If it's, hey, we have nothing to share at this point, then that's it. But at least you're maybe checking in and seeing what the status is.
Gary sharing his frustrations with communication, especially in recent years, and the lack of progress. What would it mean to have Tempe look at the case again?
I'm really not sure, but we're dealing with a totally different kind of technology today than we had 25 years ago. I don't know what a re-examination. I'm sure they must still have in an evidence room someplace. They must still have that trash can, and there may be something that today's technology will pick up that didn't get picked up 25 years ago.
Tempe police insist that there's no evidence in Cookie's case that could benefit from DNA advancements in technology. We were told since 1998, police have reopened the case multiple times when fresh information was available, and will do so again if new details come to light. I set out to try and track down Cookie's husband, Bill, and both of her children, to offer them a chance to speak.
Hi, Laura. My name's Ashley Holden. I work for ABC 15 in Phoenix. I'm calling about your mom's case. We're looking into it.
One person hung up on us. Laura picked up the phone just once, telling us to call her back before hanging up. She never answered again. As for Aaron, we found a home listed under his name in Gold Canyon, Arizona, about 40 miles outside of Phoenix. A man did come to the door.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, we're looking for Aaron Jacobson.
No, get the here.
You don't want to talk to us about your mom?
We left a card and never received a call back. If anyone out there knows something about what happened to Cookie, what would you tell them?
I would just ask them to please tell the police. Either we have a killer running loose, or we don't. It's a big deal. I wished that I, for the only time in my life, I wished that I was wealthy enough to have hired people to help. But that's not the case. But.
As Gary clings to hope, doing interviews becomes more difficult. Speaking with us, again, all these years later, for his sister. If they could get, one lead or one thing that could lead to finding your sister or closure for her case, what would that mean to you as her brother?
It would be a huge relief. It would be some sort of, although empty, it would still be closure of some sort. Closure for me is going to come sooner than later. And I know that there's nobody in my family to follow me in trying to encourage them to reopen it. And my sister deserved it.
He's hoping someone out there will see this and decide to come forward.
And Gary is just, he hasn't given up. It's really, as much of us as it's a story about a woman who went missing and we still don't know really what happened to her, it's really a story about a brother's love for his sister.
When ABC 15 covered Cookie's case at the 25-year mark, our team was told by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office they had no records on the case, so it appears it was never officially submitted to them. Tempe police are, like Gary, urging anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. We will continue to cover this case and any new developments. Thank you for watching Arizona Crime Uncovered. We're working to bring awareness to crimes where victims are still awaiting justice and also provide an in-depth look at cases still unfolding. Each episode breaks down a timeline of the case, where it stands now, and if any help is needed from the community. You can watch on abc15.com, the ABC 15 mobile app, Roku, YouTube, or any of your other streaming platforms.